Hi everyone, this is Mary Alice Hudson. I thought a lot of interesting and thought-provoking points were made in the videos, some of which reinforced my own feelings and others left me with more questions than answers. I think Levy and I both felt the sexism emanating from the collegial culture. I hope that this has changed in higher education today. My field, education, is a field in which the number of women far outweighs the number of men. I wonder if this is reflected in higher ed as well, or if the tenure-track faculty in the College of Education at large universities is dominated by males. I don't know the answer to this, but I tried to look up UNCW's College of Education faculty to see. I couldn't find a list, so I looked at the makeup of my most recent alma mater, Boise State, and their Department of Educational Technology in the College of Education. I found the department chair and associate chair are both women, but most of the tenured faculty are men, with 9 men versus 7 women, which is really pretty close. The more interesting thing I found is that they have 7 adjunct professors, 6 of which are women. So now I'm wondering if this holds true in other fields and other universities as well. Another thought provoked by Levy's video was about being taught by distinguished faculty. I work with a number of UNCG and UNCW graduates of their colleges of music. They are always talking about their professors and who taught what and the connections they still have with their professors today. And I think it's wonderful they have and they value those connections, and honestly it makes me sort of envious. This was definitely not part of my undergraduate experience. Perhaps it's a sign of that the times are changing, as my colleagues are much younger than I am, or maybe it's due to the size of the institutions, with smaller institutions being more likely to create lasting connections between students and faculty. Brittany's description of her friends' experiences at large universities makes me think a lot of things haven't changed and that the size of the institution does matter. I agree with many of the points Brittany made in her video, particularly about disliking the hierarchy of institutions and that perhaps it's time for some changes to higher education. Brian's comments about using old methodology to judge current learning really hit home for me. The world has changed and students have changed. Why are we using old standards to evaluate the present? It's the same thing that happens with standardized testing in K-12 education. We teach children how to find and use information to solve problems, and then we test them on their knowledge of rote facts. So we aren't testing what we're teaching. How can you judge success when your instruction and your outcome measures aren't aligned? I also appreciated Brian's thoughts about student voice and that it isn't a bad thing. If universities were less entrenched, they could use student feedback to change in ways that didn't diminish the quality of instruction, but rather maintained high standards and met current student needs. From what I learned about applied learning at UNCW this summer, I feel like UNCW, at least, is on the right track. A number of people mentioned faculty having loyalty to their field over their institution, and Garrett questioned if there is a difference between institutions if faculty are in their chosen fields. Based on what I've read, I think that there probably is a difference based on the size and research orientation of the institution. It seems like there is more faculty autonomy in larger, more well-funded research institutions than smaller, more teaching-oriented institutions. I appreciated Garrett and Brittany's thoughts about student life at various institutions. I think they're both right, and different types of universities have different focuses, from huge football-oriented schools like the University of Tennessee, which, even though this isn't going to be a great football year, I guarantee the stadium will be full of orange for every home game, to schools that pride themselves on specific degrees offered, like NC State and their College of Engineering. And as both Garrett and Brittany pointed out, these orientations definitely influence students when they are deciding where to apply and ultimately attend. And finally, for my additional thoughts, so my mother says that when I was little, I used to tell everyone I wanted to be a chicken. As I got older, I set my sights on being part of a think tank, not the political kind, but the kind that solved real-world problems. And honestly, the possibility of that really happening seemed just about as probable as becoming a chicken. But as I've read and thought about the collegial culture, I realized it could have happened. I didn't know it at the time, but it seems to me now that being tenured faculty at a big research institution is probably a lot like being part of a think tank. The autonomy and associated freedom to explore and study areas of interest are well matched to my post-chicken career goals. Obviously, the job descriptions of tenured faculty aren't secret, but it feels kind of like they are secret. How did I live this long and get so many degrees without really understanding what goes on in higher education? At the very least, our readings have been very eye-opening for me. Thank you for listening.